Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today I, Bex, have a book haul for you. These are books that I've been acquiring since about May of this year. There's 8 of them, so it's not a huge amount, but I've got them in a few different places and I want to share them with you because then I can get them on my actual shelves. So let me start with the books that I've been holding on to for the longest. So I went to a library book sale back in May for the next town over, and I picked up 2 books there. It was a little bit of a smaller book sale, so I found the selection wasn't as vast as some of the other ones that I've been to, but I still managed to find 2 things that I was interested in. The first is one that has been very popular on BookTube as of late, and that is 84 Charing Cross Road by Helen Hanff. And this, I realized afterwards, is actually both 84 Charing Cross Road and The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street, which I guess was a book that she published later on. But this is full of letters, like this is an epistolary nonfiction about Helen writing to a proprietor of a bookshop in England. She's based in New York, and so you kind of see their friendship develop over time as Helen is looking for these specific books to be sent to her that she can't acquire in the US. I think it's one of those books that's just like, if you're a bibliophile, if you just love the idea of seeking out books, like you're going to enjoy something like this. And it's also, I mean, there's 2 books in here. It's very short, and it's just like, it's such a cute little edition as well. So happy to have that on my shelves, even though it wasn't necessarily something that I was specifically looking for. And then the other book that I found was something that I have actually been wanting to get my hands on, and that is The 12 by Justin Cronin. So a few years ago, I read The Passage, which is the first book in this series. And that was a book that I had had on my shelves for years, and I finally picked it up. And the first 250 pages were a bit, but then after that, it got so good. Like, I really wish that I had picked it up sooner because I ended up getting really attached to the characters. It's very much a post-apocalyptic setting with a version of vampires, not kind of like the traditional vampires that we think of, but there is like a specific bad thing that people are trying to survive and avoid. So this is the next book in the series, and it sounds like this is going to either start or follow throughout characters that were alive right when things started to go wrong as the world is collapsing. In the first book, we learn what exactly happened. So this is going to follow people who were, I guess, being affected by it actually happening. And then we jump 100 years to follow the characters that we met in the first book. At least that's what I'm gleaming from the inside cover. I'm really hoping that's the case because I loved following those characters that we met after the first 250 pages of The Passage. This one doesn't seem quite as big, but it's still a chunker. And yeah, based on the experience that I had with the first book, I'm hoping this one can also live up to it. But we'll see. It'll probably be a little bit before I actually pick it up. The next 4 books are all titles that I found while thrifting, so either at Goodwill or Value Village over these last few months. The first 2 that I'm going to talk about are 2 more entries in the Royal Diaries series. I have been actively keeping an eye out for these for a few years now after I kind of rediscovered them. I have read a few of these way back in the day when I was much younger, and I always really enjoyed them. I love the look of them as well. They're very well done. And so I found Elizabeth I a few years ago, and then ever since then, that's sort of been my gateway back into this. So I found 2 that I don't believe I have ever read before, and I found these on the same day. So I think someone must have been clearing out their collection a bit, and I was so excited, especially because they weren't even next to each other. They were, you know, the chaos of thrifting shelves. So the first one is Jahanara, and this is Princess of Princesses, and this takes place in India in 1627. And then the other one is Sondok, Princess of the Moon and Stars, and this takes place in Korea in AD 595. I have never read either of these before. I have definitely seen this one. Like, this one brings back visual memories. I don't remember this one in particular, but yeah, I'm very excited to have these. Both of these are in decent condition. They're a little more beat up than some of the other ones I have, but I have never seen these ones before. Like since I started actively keeping an eye out, I have seen a couple copies of Marie Antoinette and then Cleopatra. Those are the two that I see pretty often, at least in, you know, my city's Goodwill and Value Village. But these ones, never seen them before, so I was immediately like, ooh, ooh, grab them, grab them, grab them. Like I was so excited, I made a little noise when I saw them. So I have no idea what to expect with these. I don't know anything about either of these women, so hopefully it'll be a good time. And then the next book that I found was The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History by Elizabeth Kolbert. So this is a decently well-known book, like I've heard of it before, but I actually picked this up because I read another one of Elizabeth Kolbert's books a few years ago. I read it back in 2022 for one of the rounds of the BookTube Prize. It's a nonfiction book. It's called Under a White Sky, and I really enjoyed her writing in this. I thought it was a great science nonfiction read, and so when I realized that was the same person who had written this, I became interested in reading this book. And this is one of those ones where I feel like I'm going to need to be in the right headspace to read it, because it's probably going to be very depressing, because it is about humanity's influence on the earth and how there have been 5 great extinctions previously. And so this is talking about how humans are really creating this 6th extinction. So yes, it'll be a bit upsetting, but it's one of those books that I've heard really good things about, and because I know I like her writing style, I feel like even though this is science nonfiction, which isn't generally the type of nonfiction that I lean towards, I think it will be worth my time. The last book that I found thrifting is one that if you watched my last 10 books tag, you will recognize, because I already mentioned it there, but I found a Penguin English Library edition of The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Now I will admit I had no particular inklings to read this book, but because of the edition that it is and how much I have always loved looking at these, I decided to grab it. I do have Jane Eyre in this edition as well. It's the only one that I actually own, but I've always admired the look of the paperbacks specifically. And so yeah, now I'm going to read The Woman in White at some point in the future. This is one of those books that I'm aware of. It's a very like famous Victorian novel, and it does say on the back it was the first and greatest of the best-selling Victorian thrillers, apparently known as sensation novels. So yes, this is one that has come up many times in just culture over the years, because it was kind of like the best and the first of its kind. I also realized that Wilkie Collins is a man. I always thought Wilkie Collins was a woman for some reason. I guess Wilkie just kind of, in my mind, was a feminine name. So yeah, learned that Wilkie Collins is actually a dude, or was a dude. And this book is definitely a bit bigger than I would have initially thought, but I think it would be really cool to read this type of book because it is so famous. It starts with this man seeing this like ghostly woman in white on the road, and then this sort of leads him into this world, as it says here, like of intrigue, crime, disguise, insanity. And so yeah, it just seems like as far as classics go, this could be a really good time. The final 2 books in this haul are from Echo, the publisher. I requested these from them. They are releasing later this year, so I have uncorrected proofs, but I still definitely want to share them with you because I requested them, so I'm clearly very interested in reading them. The first of those books is Articulate, a Deaf Memoir of Voice by Rachel Kolb. So Rachel was born that the year the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, and she was born profoundly deaf. So this has had a pretty large impact on her life. So this is a memoir, and that there will be personal commentary on those sorts of things of like lip reading and cochlear implants and American Sign Language, but it will also just have general commentary on like what being deaf is like, and deaf culture, and the relationship with interpreters, various things all surrounding what it is like to be deaf or be part of deaf culture. And I thought that sounded very, very interesting to learn about. So I requested a copy, and just for reference, if you're interested, this book comes out in September, so pretty soon. And then the other book that I asked for is Without Consent, a Landmark Trial and the Decades-Long Struggle to Make Spousal Rape a Crime. And this is by Sarah Weinman. So this one is very serious in nature, and we learn about the first time that a woman took her husband to court because she accused him of raping her. And the idea of spousal rape at that time was kind of laughable, at least as far as society was concerned. It says on the back that only 4 states had made spousal rape illegal. That is now changed, but this case was the thing that really kicked it off and sort of pushed the feminist movement to try to make this a punishable crime. And so now it is illegal in all 50 states, but we sort of learn about that struggle and the woman who originally accused her husband, what happened to her, what happened to him, and how things came to be how they are today. So yes, as I mentioned, this will be a very intense, serious read, but one of those nonfiction books that this is definitely my kind of nonfiction. And this one comes out in November of this year. So those are the books that I have gathered over this summer. If you have any thoughts, feelings, things you just want to say about the books that I mentioned, feel free to leave those in the comments down below. If you want to follow Les or me on Goodreads, those are linked in the down bar as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.